252.
Hey, welcome to another episode of 252. Frank G here along with
Johnny Blaze.
Cool Water Kurt.
Ralphie D.
And today we're going to be talking about the power of women in media. Who wants to kick this one off?
I feel like we are all qualified to speak to this, and no, I mean that because we all have mothers, right?
Theoretically.
At some point.
Time, yeah.
And we've seen the ups and downs of how they were treated in real life, heard stories, so we should be able to speak to this in an intelligent and eloquent way in our media savvy lens.
I thought in pre-show we weren't going to mansplain this topic.
I was explaining it to you.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking about the women across all medias, and what JB said at the top, he was like, well, we should start with Wonder Woman. All the way back in the pages of, what was it,
40-something.
40-something?
Yeah, early 40s.
Written by a man.
Written by a man, but co-written with his wife and girlfriend. Which
is how you should do it.
And he had two wives. He was married to both of them.
And then, well,
he was a freak.
Well, I want to say he was a professor at a college.
No, he was a psychologist, and what he was doing was he was developing the lie detector test from an old polygraph machine, which back in those days were used to diagnose heart conditions. And he did not want anything to smear his movement on the polygraph. Mm-hmm. So he took his middle name, which is Moulton, and he took his friend who was editor at EC Comics, his middle name was Charles, and he called himself Charles Moulton. And he created Wonder Woman under that name. And it's funny starting with Wonder Woman because she really was not that strong character in the beginning. She was not a member of the Justice Society. She was their secretary. It showed the Justice Society. I've seen the ads, and there's all the members, and it said, and Secretary Wonder Woman. Damn. You know, so there was all kinds of very sexist, very demeaning.
Well, also
stories.
at the time, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
But so she
you got to start something.
But you got to keep it real for when she came out. But as she progressed. And they finally fired Charles Moulton from the comic because he was kind of weird and twisted.
Well, we're not going to get too much into his personal life.
Weird and
No. His comic.
Time.
You were talking about bondage and spanking.
Because he was into bondage and
in his real life.
And it's only weird and twisted the first time.
Yes. So she became a stronger character, I think, after he left. And of course, now she's an icon today.
Right. But she started out as a submissive secretary.
Yes, she was a secretary of the JSA, and she wasn't even on the cover of her first appearance. Unfortunately,
that's a man's job.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's funny because for a lot of people, when it came to these DCEU movies, in a lot of eyes, Wonder Woman was their first and most really successful, which got critical as well as audience acclaim. Like the fans liked it, the critics liked it. It was a better movie.
What are you saying? Supergirl didn't get any critical acclaim back in '84.
No, the Helen Slater Supergirl, I don't think at all. It was not a good movie.
It was better than it would have been if it was an AC Slater Supergirl.
Yeah.
Whoa. Slightly better.
Slightly better.
No.
But staying in the world of comics, I would always felt like the women of X-Men were always very strong, powerful women.
Yes.
With the exception of Jean Garrett. Those early, Jean always fainting and always needed somebody to help her.
Yeah.
You know, that was crazy. But Storm, out the gate, off top, strong character.
Yeah.
You know, Rogue, when she came in as I believe she was part of the Brotherhood at first, where she came in before she became an X-Men.
Right.
And definitely a strong character. I do love the way they had, what was the chick that was the leader of the Morlocks. Exactly. I'm still me. Callisto,
yeah.
Callisto Flockhart.
Well, you know, I don't want to. I didn't want to start off hating on Wonder Woman. I certainly don't. She had to pave the way for all these comics to be possible, she had to be demeaned and be the secretary and
That's right.
this and that. She had to serve that role until she became a strong character in her own right.
They messed with her. They gave her an invisible jet she had to find and assemble. I mean, come on. Everything they could do to make it hard on the lady.
Yeah,
Exactly.
she paved the way. I mean, you wouldn't have female leaders in any comics if it wasn't for Wonder Woman. So I think you always got to start there. She's the icon.
All right. Yeah.
Well, that's why she's of the big three still to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a big three with Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and Batgirl, but there's no way to remove Wonder Woman from it and make it all dudes.
I agree with that. 100.
And I believe that's why she was one of the first to get her own show, the 1977 Wonder Woman starring Linda Carter.
Yes.
Still funky theme song.
Wonder Woman!
It's very good.
All the world is waiting for you.
Yeah, though I think the weakest person on that show, and they had two colonels. They played by who were the strong jawed guy lead.
We had Lyle Wagner.
Oh,
was one of
Steve
them.
Trask. Or
Steve Trevor was her boyfriend who was always getting kidnapped, always getting hurt. She was always going to save him.
it was kind of like,
Could not accomplish a single mission.
Like I Dream of Jeannie. How did what was it? Major
Nelson.
Major Nelson. Yeah, how did he even have a career? Because every time Jeannie had to come in there and save the day. Especially Major Healy was an idiot.
Well, that's why in his later years he had to live across the hall from Bob Newhart and seek psychiatric help.
Yeah.
But they demoted him to airline pilot at that point. He was no longer allowed spaceships.
Air traffic controller. Not even in the booth. He was
out there.
He was on the tarmac.
Oh, man. Well,
but yeah, now, like I said, bringing us into TV, like I remember back in the day, and it might even sound funny, but even like on the Beverly Hillbillies, like Ellie Mae was
hot.
She was not only that, but she was really the strong character on the show. And then you had a very strong-willed Granny as well. And yes, I understand that they mostly did the comic relief.
But you like, could wind it back further than that. Shows like the Donna Reed show and
but even with
Mary Tyler Moore,
Lucy.
But they were.
Well, Mary Tyler Moore came after.
That was way after.
Way after.
It was way after.
Mary
Tyler Moore?
No, I'm talking about when Beverly Hillbillies ended. It wasn't that long after they did the Mary Tyler Moore show.
Because Mary Tyler Moore did Dick Van Dyke show first before she went into the Mary Tyler Moore.
I'm just saying there were other strong figures in the 50s. They just in the 60s.
It's like we're branching off, but he's got a point there. The Beverly Hillbillies ran for a long ass time and probably stopped around 71, and Mary Tyler Moore probably started in like 72 or 3.
Yeah.
You underestimate the longevity of the Hillbillies.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being black and white.
They started in black and white.
And went all the way into the color era.
Yeah, that's how you
and color TV.
It was a good show. And for them, I mean.
Well, it's like a lot of shows. You can watch any episode and you're good because they're all the same show.
Yeah, basically.
Like Gilligan, you can watch any one, you've got the whole thing.
But even with TV back then, like everything else, man, like just like we were saying with the Wonder Woman, like there was a lot of stuff on TV that they had to have it subdued, or they had to camouflage it as a strong female character, because also at that time they had to be careful that they didn't want to show a strong female character because they didn't want to liking it to be a man, and there was the whole they didn't want to push the gay agenda by having too strong of a female character.
That's where you get to Maude. B. Arthur as Maude, as a spin-off of All in the Family, where she was like the women's lib person and the first to talk about having an abortion on TV and stuff. That was huge controversy. Like, that was huge, right when we were tiny guys.
Or not even that, but what was the actress that played Flo? With
Polly Holiday.
She got raped.
Yeah, they had to again make her have
on the show
sass. She had to have sass to be a strong character. Because you had Alice, who was just, the single mom.
Yeah,
raising her kid doing it, and you had to have somebody who was sassy. And I believe there was a third actress,
Vera.
Yeah, and she was the throwback to the old ways.
The ditzy, the ditzy waitress,
Right. Well, the sass in that was required because they had Mel. Who was
you had to have someone that would go up
abrasive
against him.
sailor Popeye kind of character.
Yeah. Man, I hated Mel.
He was a...
Because when they got rid of Flo, the two girls they brought in were much less sassy.
Yeah, you just couldn't reach that
What was
sass
there
level.
things like Kiss My Grits?
Kiss My Grits. Mel, kiss my grits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of strong female television, but they definitely made mistakes. Like they tried to do kind of a women's lib movement in Wonder Woman, where they stripped her of her powers and she took off her costume and wore regular clothes.
She took off her costume?
Yeah, she wore regular clothes.
Oh.
And she was fighting crime without superpowers. But the problem was the entire team that was assigned to do the women's lib Wonder Woman were all men. And I think if you don't have a female perspective, that's why it tanks so hard. Not Wonder Woman the character, but that storyline tanks so hard in the comics.
Yeah.
You got to do it right.
It's kind of weird when men do shows about women.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't work. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take the Pepsi challenge with that. In one instance, now I'm jumping ahead, about 20 years.
Yes.
But when Joss Whedon decided to have his show, actually before the show, when his script got picked up for a movie, they were going to do Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He had a definite idea and a definite purpose for who Buffy was going to be. Of course, when the big studio execs got a hold of it, they changed everything all up, and what happened on screen turned into that Christy Swanson, Luke Perry movie that a lot of people...
That is entertaining, but it's not good.
Yeah. And even, I believe Sarah Michelle Gellar had a story. She said that she was at a Hollywood party and she had just got booked for the TV show. And she ran into Keith Sullivan at a party, and they were talking, and she's like, "Oh, hey, I just got picked up on the show to do a movie that was after a movie that your dad was in." And he was like, "Which one?" She goes, "Buffy the Vampire Slayer." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry."
That's funny. You forget Donald Sutherland was in that.
Right. Everybody needs to get paid. But with that being said, Joss Whedon has this character of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It plays for 7 years, and Buffy turns out to be probably the shining light of female empowerment on television that opened the doors and started a bunch of shows in that ilk.
Oh, yeah.
Which had it, because if it wasn't for Buffy, you wouldn't have Jennifer Garner on Alias. You wouldn't have Jessica Alba on Dark Angel. You wouldn't have... There's a lot of... what was her name? Kristen Bell on Veronica Mars.
Veronica Mars, yeah.
That was definitely... There was a starting point that happened when that show came in as a mid-season replacement. I believe it was on like 12 or 13 episodes that first season. Got a strong second, and even in that second season, where there was a part where Buffy loses her virginity, and it was like that story where she loses her virginity, the guy turns into an asshole literally right after it happens. He leaves her in the bedroom, turns into a demon, and then makes fun of her for how she was in bed. It's like, I had better, did all this stuff, messed around with
If
her.
you're turning people into demons, you definitely need to go see the doctor about that.
Yeah.
Get it checked out.
The burning sensation. Oh, it's fire.
Well, what I want to get with this, throughout the rest of the season, Angel then is the big bad on the show. They're going in, and she literally has to kill Angel because the world's about to get sucked into hell. And it shows her for the being a powerful lead character. In the show, instead of right when they're having the climactic battle, and then Angel reverts back to the guy who he was. He has absolutely no memory of all the bad stuff that he has.
Right.
He looks at her, and instead of having that Hollywood ending where she has her guy back and they do the big kiss and move on, the character Buffy knows that things are still going to go badness in hell. And even though he is now the guy who she thought he always was, she still takes the sword and puts it through his heart and kills him.
Good.
where everybody else is like, I'm glad you did it, but she knows that he was really him at that time.
Oh, right.
You know, so she knew she killed Angel, not Angelus. And I know I'm getting real deep on this.
Spoiler alert.
He got
It's
better.
20-something years old. If you haven't seen it by now, you're not going to see it. But with that, I mean, it just showed that was really brave for them to do for a female led character on a show at that time, with all the stories that they were going with, to show that in its second season.
Well,
Right.
you know, and it's not just happening in this country. I'm a big fan of anime and manga and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the central character in any of the great Miyazaki's movies, they're all strong female characters. In the anime and in the comics, you have characters like Sailor Moon and whatnot, where there's a strong, which Buffy heavily borrowed from. It's strong female characters that are dominating the media over there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just happening here. And just like this country was extremely chauvinistic, so was Japan, if not even more so. And now they're making that reversal by making the hero a woman or even a young girl, as in a lot of Miyazaki's movies.
Well, one of my first forays into some female empowerment came way back in 1979 with the movie Alien. Now, Frank, you could probably attest to this as well. And just seeing Ripley be the voice of reason and the one who's doing stuff by the book and using her brains and everything to outwit the alien.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Well, that's Alien.
I know, but that's...
But still.
She was already like the top star by then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was supposed to be a male. Ripley was supposed to be a man, but...
Believe it or not. Right?
Yeah. It was supposed to be Jack Palance, as a matter of fact.
Jesus! I think you've made that up.
It was Ripley, the character, was supposed to be played by a man, and I can't remember who changed it. Maybe it was director Ridley Scott. Could have been. Who said, no, after that, making it a woman, boom, Ripley, iconic character.
Well, and then what followed was it made it possible for movie series like Resident Evil. You have.
Oh yeah, there are some misses.
Yeah, they would never even probably have considered a woman for the lead. That
You're
series
probably right. Yeah.
if it wasn't for Alien.
And they made 6 of those movies, man.
Ooh,
Yeah.
they did.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, another late 70s thing that people would be like, no, that's ridiculous. But think of Laverne and Shirley, who were, living in an apartment together, supposedly in the 60s at that point, late
And
50s, early 60s. Yeah, well, right, not gay, but living in an apartment together on their own, paying their own bills, taking care of their own business, and they didn't. Lenny and Squiggy were the comedic relief on that show. So
Very true.
they flipped it around on that one. Whereas you would have seen numerous shows where they had the two guys and then like the goofy cast of girls coming around. Like Three's Company almost.
I was gonna say. Yeah.
I was going to say.
Let's see, who's our other? Oh yeah, shoot, we're leaving out the great Linda Hamilton.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about the way her character swung from the first Terminator to the second?
To the second one, exactly. Yeah. But she had no flashes of anything.
You know what? That was because she spent 3 years in the sewer with the beast, Ron Perlman. Catherine.
Her hair was so big. Her hair was as big as his, man.
Yeah.
80s Beauty and the Beast. I never watched one.
Not one episode.
Same here. I couldn't
No,
watch
no,
it either.
Now, the funny thing is,
my
I
parents
would go
watched
into-
that, and we had one TV.
I remember when I went over to my buddy Bob's house, his grandmother watched that show all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the only way how I even knew of the show's existence, but I would never sit down and focus. I remember looking at it and was like, this isn't for me.
Some of it was comic booky, but then it always had the romance stuff parts that was
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about in the 60s, right? Late 60s. Remember Star Trek, Uhura on the bridge, one of the command crew of the Enterprise.
Very true.
That's
Now, see, I always felt like they never really gave her nothing to
He was
do.
just a telephone operator.
Yeah, I really
Hailing
felt
frequencies
like
over.
that
they
was
had the whole episode's dedicated to her.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
she got the first interracial kiss on
the
screen.
first interracial
Yeah.
on-screen
Yes,
kiss.
yeah.
Yes. You get those accolades. She got to kiss a Canadian on the mouth. Michelle, that's what your career sums up
That
to.
was the highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She run her hands through his tooth.
But
Yeah,
she
but
managed
she
to keep, she
Yeah.
kept with that role through until she was too old to really do it anymore. And they did those into the late 80s, early 90s.
No, the movies, yeah.
So, I mean, she had a 30-year run as that character, and she got more stuff to do as time went on. And I remember her doing actual adventuring by the time, like, Star Trek 4 came around.
252.
Odds on it. Pull yourself together.